So, if you've come to this video, you probably realise that 3D printing is, well, slightly more complicated than 2D printing. Unless you want a wig or some plastic spaghetti, it's important you set your prints up right before you print them. But how do we do this? This video will cover the basics on how to prepare, export and print a simple 3D model on your new 3D printer. We're assuming that you've assembled it and the bed is already levelled. Hopefully your first print goes a little better than mine did, and hope you enjoy. The first step of the journey to your first 3D printed item is called slicing. But wait, isn't slicing what we do to cake or other certain popular video games? Jokes aside, slicing is where you make tweaks to your 3D models to ensure that they will print properly. A software I'd recommend, which you can find at the link below, is Ultimaker Cura. Just head to software and then select Cura. You can download it with this button here. Make sure you install the no-cost version and you can get slicing in a few minutes. Just make sure in the setup wizard you select STL, OBJ and FreeMF files so that you can import and save files into the software. Upon opening the software, you'll need to find your printer in the menu over here. Click Add Printer, add a non-network printer, and then select your printer from the list. There's a lot of printers in one sentence. Let's go over some basic navigation so you can navigate around your scene. Use right click to orbit around the print bed where your model will print. Middle click will pan up and around your scene. Using left click can select models and right click can show the per model settings. If you need to, don't be afraid to pause the video and then come back when you feel confident with the camera navigation. Now we can begin bringing in the models. Head to the OneDrive link in the description below and you can download the model there. Now that we've imported the model, there's just one more step before we can start slicing. You can see that the model is on its side, so we need to fix that. Head to the rotation tool and drag with your mouse until it says 90 degrees. Now the model is flat on the build plate and we can begin slicing. You'll want to begin slicing by heading to the Print Settings tab. If you see something that looks more like this, these are the more advanced settings for when you feel more comfortable in the software, but for now I'd stick to the recommended settings. Let's look at these basic settings now. The first setting is the print profile. 3D printing is done in layers, and the profiles control the size of these layers. For example, if you go for a smaller layer height, you'll find that the print takes longer to print, but you'll get a better quality finish. If you choose a larger layer height, you'll get a lower quality finish, but you'll get it faster, which is good for machinery parts. We want something fairly detailed, so we're going to choose 0.16mm for our profile. The next setting on the list is Infill. Infill controls how much of your model is filled with plastic. This slider controls how much infill there is. The higher the infill, the stronger your print will be, but it will take longer to print. If you choose a smaller infill percentage, your model will be faster to print but it won't be as strong. We want something like 20%, as this will provide ample support for our print. The next setting is Support. Support is what you need to use when printing overhangs for complicated parts like minifigures. We shouldn't need this in our model, so we'll untick this. And finally, the next option is Adhesion. I'll explain this in another video, because you only really need to use it for advanced prints. The last thing we need to do in Cura is finish the slicing. Click the Slice button down here. This box will give you an estimated time for your print, and how much plastic it will use. We just need to transfer this to the printer now. Most printers now use micro SD cards to transfer the data between the computer and the printer. They also often come with USB adapters so that you can use your SD card with a computer easily. Plug this into your computer with the SD card attached. You should see that Windows will detect the USB, and it should say Save to Removable Drive where it once had saved the file. Click this, and you'll see that it goes into your files. You can now safely remove the SD card, and we can get to printing. Now you've saved the model to the SD card, head to your printer, take out the SD card and plug it in. You might be using a different printer, but the setup should be fairly similar. For this print we're going to be using PLA plastic because it's cheap and easy to get. It's also easy to print with, which is why we're using it here. PLA prints well at 220 degrees and a bed temperature of 50 degrees. To feed the filament into the printer, put the spool over the spool holder. Feed your filament down until you get to the extruder. Then when you reach the extruder, push down on the driver gear and feed your filament through the tube. You should eventually see the filament coming out the other end, which means the print is hot enough to start printing. And when you're ready, just press print and let the magic happen. So this is what your model should look like when you've printed it. If you have any suggestions, problems, or just want to share your work, don't be afraid to do it in the chat. At the moment, this channel and recording YouTube videos is still really new to me, so I'd be grateful if you could like and subscribe to help more and more 3D printing beginners. I hope you found the tutorial helpful and interesting, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.